Hey everybody, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this super cute Lucky Bird zipper bag. And there are two ways you can make it. I forgot the button, so ignore that. But you can make this completely in the hoop where you don't have binding, or you can make the front and the back in the hoop, and then you can sew them together with the binding on your sewing machine. When you do it on your sewing machine with the binding, you do end up with a slightly larger bag. You can see the difference here. It's about 3/4 of an inch, maybe half an inch difference. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the back. I'm going to show you how to make the front. And then at the end, I am going to show you how to just finish it in the hoop, but I'll give you instructions on how to simply, it's just a difference of one step to do it either way. So what you want to have ready right off the bat is your 9" by 9" piece of the outside of your bag, the back side, with your fusible batting ironed on. And then you'll have the lining of your bag, which is also 9" by 9". And you just want to go on and press these pieces, okay? So load the design into your embroidery machine. And what you're going to do, so you can see it's a straight line that it's going to stitch. And then you'll want to make sure that you have your little bag of goodies with the pieces. And if you want the label, I'll show you how you get the label on this. And if you don't want the label on the back of your bag, I'll show you how you can skip a step and not get that on there. So I load my machine with a white thread. Now the entire time we're doing the back for this, because the fabric is white on the outside, you're going to keep the white thread on the whole time. So simply put your foot down, and what it's going to do is stitch the outline of the bag. Now the hoop that I'm using is hooped with a medium tearaway stabilizer. You can use the stabilizer of your choice if you're very comfortable with making bags and there's another stabilizer you like to use. Absolutely use your favorite. And make sure that on your machine you have a hoop that accommodates at least 8" by 8", as that is the size of the bag that you're stitching. And it finishes just a hair smaller. So right now what it's doing is stitching that outline for us. And it's on the last step. And what we're going to do is, once it's done with this, we're going to remove the hoop from the arm of our machine, and we're going to put it down in front of us, and we're going to put the front on and the back on, okay? Now what I have in front of me is a Steady Betty. I do that so that I can iron and have a nice soft place to place my hoop. Now what I'm actually going to do first is turn this over. Well, first let me show you. This is the front of the hoop. You can see that little bit of shine? That's the white thread that's stitched. And what I'm going to do is turn this over to the back, and I'm going to put it down back up facing me. And I'm going to take my 9" square of fabric, and I'm just going to simply cover, make sure that I'm covering that outline. And I'm going to tape it on. Now I'm using a basic home office tape. You use the tape that you prefer when you're doing embroidery. I know a lot of people like the medical tape, the painter's tape. I use this because when I'm filming, I like that it's hands-free on the base. Well, I don't have to hold the tape, if you will. And you can put as much or as little tape as you're comfortable with. I'm just going along the 4 sides. I'm using a little bit more tape than I normally do, actually, on this piece. Now you're going to turn the hoop over. So the back was up. Now the back is going to be down and the front is going to be up. And my piece that is 9" squared with the fusible batting ironed on is the front of my bag. And I just simply put that in place where I'm covering the 8" square. And that's it. I'm just going to put it on the hoop. And goodness gracious, that was the hardest part of your the making of the back of your bag. So put your hoop down. Now what's going to happen, it's going to do the square. It's going to stitch that to secure everything in place. And then it's going to do straight line quilting. I really love the way that looks on the back of the bag. Doesn't that look so nice and finished? Isn't that cute? And in this case, on this mug rug, none of the fabric is directional. So if you remember last month, we had directional fabric. And you have to think a little harder and make sure you put your pieces the right way. This month is so easy without any directional fabric. And I believe the next 2 months don't have any directional fabric as well. So it's going to be really nice, quick projects coming for you. They're always cute, even if there's a little bit of thought in them. All right, and so now it is going to do the straight lines. So if you want to skip the label, when you're done with this step with the straight line stitching, your back is completely done and you can take it out of the hoop. If you want to have this label, then you're gonna wanna do the next 2 steps after this, which is where it outlines where to place your label and where it secures your label in place. So I will be right back in just a second when this is done stitching, and we will do the tutorial on how to complete the label on the back of your mug rug, or I'm sorry, of your zippy bag. Okay, so the first step is completed, which has done the straight line quilting for, this is the outside of your bag that's on top, and then this is your lining. So you can see you have a beautiful inside of your bag and outside of your bag. I just love it. Now, if you don't want the label on, you're done with the back. Take it out of the hoop and move on to making the front. If you want the nice designer label, which does give a really beautiful finished look, then you are gonna wanna finish these last 2 steps, which only take a second. So just simply put your foot down, and it's gonna stitch an outline of the label. It's a smidge smaller than the label so that you'll cover it. So we'll let that stitch, and just have your tape handy beside you. And there we go. And now you're gonna remove the hoop from the arm of your machine. You're gonna put it down in front of you. Again, be really careful not to disturb the stabilizer or anything in the hoop. And you're gonna simply line this up. And now a little bit of the label will stick off on the left and right side. And you wanna make sure that happens, 1, so that your label is centered, and 2, so that you know it's gonna get caught in the stitching and secured down. So what I do is just put a little dab of tape on each end, and I'll show you what it looks like. And I know with straight lines, it's a little hard to see like straight lines on straight lines, but it's there. Okay, so there you go. You have your label taped on. You can see I just have a little bit of tape on each side. So simply put it back in. See how quick this is to do the label? Put your foot down, and it's gonna stitch that final step. Now be so careful. Don't do what I do and put your finger here, but if you do, be so careful. Oh look, I came on thread. Whoops, you guys will just bear with me while I get my thread fixed. Now I'm gonna use this to like, so when this used to happen to me, I would get scared and be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So depending on what machine you have, you do have a way to go back in stitches. So just go back. See, and I went too far, so I wanna go boop, boop, boop. There we go. So you just want to make sure that you go back to the beginning of that step. You can also, on this machine, you can do it as well. You can go back and forth with thread colors, and that gets you there a little faster. But, so just rethread your machine if this happens to you, and stay calm. Rethread and stay calm. That should be a t-shirt for people with embroidery machine, shouldn't it? Okay, and then hold your thread, and then put your foot down and hit start. Now, what I was saying is be really careful. You might want to use more tape instead of using your finger like I do, but I just kind of keep my finger by the machine to hold that. And let me grab my thread and trim it. And just always be careful, because if you hit that, I'm sure it hurts. And no one wants their fingers sewn into their zippy bag. So just kind of make sure that everything stays in place. And it did beautifully. And now the machine will sing for you. Hopefully your machine sings for you. Boop. Ta-da! Okay, and so now you can unhoop this. Let me show you. I just need to pull my tape off. But look how nice that is. So I have the whole back quilted in no time at all. So you can go on and unhoop this, add another piece of stabilizer, and we'll be back to do the front of the zippy bag. Okay, so now it's time to do the front of your bag. So you have your stabilizer loaded in a hoop that accommodates at least 8 inches by 8 inches. You have the front of your bag now loaded into your embroidery machine, and keep your white thread on. We're gonna use the white thread through the first multiple steps. So go on and put your foot down, and your machine is gonna stitch an outline, and what it's gonna do is an 8-inch square, and then it's gonna do 2 lines kind of in the upper third area, and that is gonna be where we're gonna place our zipper. So while that's stitching, I wanna talk to you about the zipper. So the zipper is obviously more length than you need, which is great. You're gonna want to put, because the way this is in my hoop, and you'll be able to know the direction that your bag is, your machine may rotate the design. but mine is facing this way. So my zipper, I like it to pull from top to bottom. So I'm gonna have, when I place this down, I'm gonna make sure that the zipper pull is oriented to the left, right? So think about how you want your zipper before you place it. And again, you might like it to go from bottom to top. Whatever you like is how you can do it. And then just make sure that you have your lining and the bag pieces ironed. And go on and make sure that you have your pre-fused laser cut pieces. You go on and take them out of the bag and begin peeling the backing off. It just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so you can see it's doing one zipper line, and now it's going to do the second. And I'm just going to keep the camera rolling. You guys stitch along with me or fast forward to the parts that you need. But I just want to make sure that I give as much detail in the tutorial for you as possible. So if this is the first time maybe you're making a bag with us, I give you all the information you need. And if you've made a couple bags already, you can skip ahead to where you might have a point where you want to review what happens. Okay, so now this first step is done. And what you're gonna do is remove your hoop from the arm of your machine. Again, the entire time be really careful that you don't disturb the hoop. You wanna make sure that you don't shuffle the stabilizer at all, because that'll mess up the bag. And now what you're gonna do is place this, and I give a little bit extra on the left, and I do the majority of my tail on the right, just because I don't have to worry about it messing with my arm of my machine. And the zipper fits just over this stitch line, and you want to do your best to keep the zipper straight. And then you're going to put a little bit of tape on one end and a little bit of tape on the other end. And you can do some tape in the center if you want. It depends, you know, the more bags you make, the more comfortable you get, and probably the less tape you use as you get more comfortable. Okay, so let me show you what we have. This is what it now looks like, right? You have the zipper pull to the left, which is gonna be the top of the bag. And then you have the tail hanging off on the right, and you have a little bit of tape. And so we're just gonna simply put this back on. Again, always be careful when you're taking this on and off that you're not getting this zipper pull caught in the arm of your machine. You're gonna put your foot down, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna secure the zipper for you. So it's gonna do the same two middle lines that it did before. It's gonna go across the bottom and then across the top. And then we'll be to the next step, which is where you'll need your 9" by 3" piece. And what you're gonna do is lay it on the top and the back of your bag, and it's gonna fold in place. And now it's doing the top. Alrighty, and so for now, leave your zipper zipped, but go on and take this off the arm of your machine, and we're gonna remove the tape. And then we're gonna work with, you need the 9" by 3" piece, you know, for the front and the lining of your bag. So take this off and put it in front of you, and just peel that tape off. Oop. And I will say in the videos, I don't pull all my tape off, because, you know, I won't wanna make you guys wait too long. Now, you want to flip this over where the back of your hoop is facing up, right? And what you're going to do, this is not directional, so your life is easy in this case. You want to put it face down, so right sides down towards this, and you want to put it 1/4 inch above the top zipper line. So let me just hold this up and show you where I'm going to put it. I'm going to line it up 1/4 inch above my top line. See this? There's two zipper lines. This is the top line and 1/4 inch up. But obviously I'm gonna make sure I cover all edges. Okay? And this is on the back with the fabric facing down. And just make sure you're giving yourself that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I simply put 2 pieces of tape on each end to secure this to the back. And if you want to use more tape, by all means use the tape that you're comfortable with. So this is what it looks like on the back, right? So you don't see any of your zipper. Now you're gonna put it face up, and you're gonna repeat this. So you're gonna take the 9 by 3" piece for the outside of your bag. It's not directional, so it doesn't matter. And you're gonna place it 1/4 inch above your zipper. And what this is gonna do then, we're gonna put it back in the hoop, and it's going to stitch this in place, and that's going to give you your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And actually, I'm not going to tape the top because I don't need to. But you guys, by all means, use the tape that you are comfortable with. When you put this on, just make sure you didn't disturb the back. Now put your foot down. Again, we're still with white thread for this case because our fabric is white on the outside, even though this line doesn't show, but still. And it's just gonna do one simple line across the top. Perfect. And actually on the front, I gave myself a little bit more than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's okay, we give you plenty of fabric. The top of the bag is really only like 1 3/4 inches or 2 inches, so you have more than enough fabric than you need. So let me show you what you have. You have a stitched line. So if you flip this up, there's your zipper. And then on the back, we're gonna go on and take this tape off, and we're gonna flip this up. Now you're just kind of gonna finger press without putting much pressure. And you're going to tape this in place. And in this case, it looks like I'm gonna be able to reuse that same piece of tape. How cool is that? Alrighty, and a little bit there. And on this, because I wanna make sure that my seam right here stays nice and straight, you know, like I don't have a fold or anything, I'm gonna use an extra piece of tape across the top. So let me show you what the back looks like. So what we've done is just flip that back up. See? This is the line we just stitched when the fabric was down. And now we flipped it up. So we see the right side of the fabric and everything's taped in place. Now I'm gonna put this in front of me again with the front facing up. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing, but with a little bit of a difference. I'm gonna get my 9 inch by 3 inch piece of fusible batting. And you're gonna line that up just to that stitched line. Okay, so this is what I have in front of me, see? I've laid that on top to just touching or just about to touch my stitched line. And then you're gonna flip the front of your bag, that piece you just stitched, you're gonna flip it up. Make sure that your batting is nice and smooth underneath it, and because it's fusible batting, take your iron and just give it a nice quick press. And again, this is the little steam fast iron. It's like 20 or 30 bucks. And I love using it because it fits in these nice small spaces. I use it a lot, so it looks like I need to clean the bottom because I'm getting a little bit of brown flakes, so I need to clean my iron. But there we go, let me get that out of the way. So this is what it looks like on the front, see? And I'm not using tape or anything on the top because it stays in place, but by all means, do the tape that you're comfortable with. So now what the machine is gonna stitch now, let me put it down, and again, stay with the white thread. It's gonna secure around the top 3 sides. It's gonna do straight line quilting, and then it's gonna finish with one seam right here to give it a nice finished look and to make sure that the zipper is caught. Well, it's already caught, but just to give it a little bit of extra security. And now it's gonna do the straight up and down stitches. And then we're gonna be back and we are going to get the front and the back of the bag in place. And then we're gonna do the applique on the front of the bag. So we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so now let me show you what the machine just stitched. Look how nice the top of your bag is quilted, and the inside is quilted really nice too. I ran out of bobbin thread in the middle, so that's why I have an extra knot. So now what we're gonna do is the same process for the front. So you need your 9 by 7 pieces. You have your lining and the outside. So you're gonna take your hoop, you're gonna put it in front of you, and you're gonna put it backside up, so the back of the hoop is facing you. You're gonna take your 9 inch by 7 inch piece, you're gonna put it face down, and it's gonna be towards the top of your hoop, and you want the bottom to cover just a 1/4 inch over the bottom zipper line. Okay? So let me show you what this is gonna look like. And this is, I do use a lot of tape in this step, and I'll show you why. So just tape that in place. And then you're gonna flip it over. Now let me show you. So the top zipper line is like here, the bottom zipper line is right here. And we have this 1/4 inch below that stitched line, okay? And we have it taped. Now you can see there's a lot of excess fabric, right? So you flip it over, keep holding that. And what I do is I actually tape this around the top of my hoop. Now your hoop might be a totally different shape and orientation, so you might not need to tape it around on the top. My hoop is like 9 by 10 or something like that. And so I like to just tape this up so that way when I'm going in and out, I don't have to worry about accidentally stitching this in where it doesn't belong, right? Okay, so I have my back on, it's secured. Now we're gonna repeat the same thing with our second 9" by 7" piece. You're gonna put it face down, and you're gonna put it towards the top, and you're just gonna go 1/4 inch below the zipper. And now I don't always tape on the top, but I am gonna give it like one little piece of tape. So I'm gonna gently hold this up. This is what the top looks like, see? It's 1/4 inch below the zipper, and the excess fabric is hanging over the top. So you're gonna gently put this in. Make sure you don't catch your zipper anywhere. And now what the machine is gonna do is stitch one straight line. And what that's gonna be doing is giving you that 1/4 inch seam for the front and the back, the lining of the bottom inside, and then the front bottom on the outside. And then what we're gonna do is the same thing like we did for the top. We're now gonna put the fusible batting in place. The difference is I'm gonna leave my back taped up. And that's because when we do all of this stitching in the hoop, right, I don't want all the knots from the different colors to show on the inside of my bag. So the very last step, we're actually gonna take that lining and pull it down so we have a nice clean lining inside for the inside bottom. So take this off, put it in front of you, and just like you did before, you're gonna take your 9 by 7 piece of fusible batting and you're gonna put it just up to that line that just stitched. And then you're gonna pull this down. Make sure when you do that your batting stays nice and flat. And you might need to readjust, like I need to pull it up a little. There you go. And then again, because it's fusible, take your little iron and iron it in place. And it only takes a few seconds to activate that fusible. And always be careful not to distort what's in your hoop. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, get that little cord out of the way. This is what we have. The back is still taped up, right? The back lining. And this is now smoothed down and ironed together. So we're gonna put this on, and what the machine is gonna do is first stitch a rectangle, and it's gonna secure the fusible batting in the front of your bag to the stabilizer, and then it's gonna do the first round of outlines for your applique piece. It's also gonna do one nice little straight stitch right here as well. And so again, I've gone on and I have all of my pre-fused laser cut pieces off to the side. I've peeled the backing off all of them. And so we're gonna let the machine go on and stitch all the outlines and the top stitch right there. And we'll be back in just a second to iron that on. Okay, so the machine just secured the bottom of the bag, the bottom front of the bag to the stabilizer. It did a nice top stitch by the zipper, and it's done the outline of the first layer of the applique pieces. Now let's talk about something. The grass on the mug rug is a certain length, right? On the zipper bag, because there's a zipper, we don't need the full length of this grass. So what you need to do is on your piece of grass, before you peel the backing, take a ruler, measure 3/4 of an inch in, and trim your piece of grass. So you're gonna trim 3/4 of an inch from the right side. If you trim from the other side, your lines are not gonna work with your buttonhole stitch. So you're gonna take 3/4 of an inch off and you're gonna trim it. So you can use a rotary cutter, or you can just trim it really fast with scissors. I am just going to, for filming purposes, trim it real fast. So let me show you. So you've trimmed 3/4 of an inch off from the right side of the grass. So now it's time to lay all your pieces into place. So what you've done, remember, peel the backing, and you are going to simply use the outlines to guide where you put your pieces. And for the grass, you're gonna wanna make sure that it lines up at the top. And it's gonna go right, pretty much the right side of that grass is gonna hit that top stitch. So as long as it is right at that top stitch, you're gonna know you cut off the right 3/4 of an inch. Then you're also going to go on and iron on the 4 hearts that become the shamrock kite. And you just put it right in place. Everything is the exact size you need, no matter if you get the laser cut kit from us or if you use your own home electronic cutter with the SVG files. So get all that ironed, and you're going to leave the white thread on your machine, and when we put this back on, the machine is going to go on and stitch a second round of applique pieces, and that's going to be the top of the hat, the left and right of his wings, the left wing and the right wing, and then it's going to stitch the outline of his beak. So right now we're ironing on in layers from bottom to top, and then the next step will be to stitch. Now, one more thing to pay attention to is make sure that you get pink, yellow, purple, and I'm holding it sideways because that's how it's oriented in your hoop. So make sure when you're putting these 3 pieces down, you do it in the right order, because the machine is going to prompt you to tell you to go pink, yellow, purple, and if you do it in a different order, that's fine. Just make sure that you change your thread to the right color at the right time and ignore the prompts from the machine. Alrighty, so we're almost done ironing on. And the bow is not exactly symmetrical, so you might have to flip it. Like if you put it down and you're like, that doesn't fit, just flip it. It does fit. It's almost symmetrical. Pretty darn close. But all of the designs are hand drawn by Mom. And then I take them into Illustrator and trace all of her lines and get it ready for our laser, for the embroidery, for all of that. So it's really cool because everything is her exact line. And speaking of her exact line, this cute aqua fabric is from our line of fabric with Henry Glass called Knit Happy. And it came out last year. It sold out pretty much right away, but you might be able to find some quilt shops that still have it. Alrighty, and now it's time to load this back onto your machine. Again, the lining of your bag is still taped up because you don't want to have all those knots showing inside. So simply put this back on, prompt your machine, and it's going to stitch the next round of outlines, which again is the first piece of the hat, his nose, and the left and right wings. And this takes just a second, so I'll just keep filming for a minute, and we'll get that ironed on. And throughout the placement guide process, the machine is going to show you red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black. That's just to show you where the steps change. Of course, you do not need to be changing your thread at all right now. You can use white through this entire process until we actually get to the decorative stitches. The decorative stitches that are on this, we have buttonhole stitches across the grass, his hat, the buckle, and then his nose. And then we have a straight stitch, or a triple stitch if you will, which is just inside of the hearts that make the shamrock kite, the 3 bows on the kite, and then also it makes his little legs. So one more little piece and then we'll iron those on. Alrighty. So once we iron this piece on, it's actually, most of the layers happen in the same place. So once we iron these 4 pieces, the machine is then going to do 1 outline stitch, you'll take it off and do the next piece and so on. Because the only thing you're going to have to complete now are the pieces on his hat. And the wings are not exactly the same, so you want to make sure you get them on the right side. See, like that looks like it's the right side, but it's not. There he goes. He's the left wing. And again, be really careful when you're ironing these little pieces not to burn your fingers. That's why we like this little iron, because it allows you to hold your piece, tack it down a little bit, and then place the iron for the full effect, for the full heat. And last piece, his little nose. And again, you just want to be right inside those stitched lines. Okay, so this is what your hoop looks like now, right? You're getting a second round ironed on. And put this on the hoop. And like I said, it's now going to do an outline for just 1 piece. It's doing the brown trim on his hat. And then the next step will be the orange buckle. And then the final step of the outline stitches will be the final piece of the green dots for the brim of his hat. And again, you can stay with me and sew and iron right beside me, or you can skip ahead to the parts you need. But again, I like to give as much detail in the videos as possible so that you're not wondering what to do next. And for me, I usually learn a lot better from videos necessarily than reading. Well, not all the time, but most of the time when it comes to something like this. Whoop, I'm about to untape my own piece. There we go. And put your foot down. There you go. Now it's going to do an outline of the buckle. It's a cute little buckle. All right, so we're going to take this off and iron that little buckle on. There we go. And now, last piece we need to outline. Whoop. There we go. And that is this final little green piece, the little brim of his hat. And then we're gonna switch to a green thread. And the machine is going to do a buttonhole stitch around the grass and then the hat, the green parts of the hat. It's gonna do the straight stitch of the string of the kite, and then it's gonna do the straight stitch within the hearts that make the shamrocks. All right, so don't forget to take this off and iron your last piece. Just get that right in place here. And for a piece that's long like the top of the hat, you might want to like get one side in place and tack it down and then tack down the other side. So there you go. This is what it looks like now. Everything is ironed into place. So all your applique pieces are there. Put this back on. Sorry to reach all the way across the camera. Then you're going to take off your white thread and you are going to put in your green thread, and it's going to do the buttonhole stitch. So I'm going to get threaded up and start that, and I'll be back in just a second to show you what the green stitched and then get you changed to the next color. Okay, so now what we're going to do is thread the machine with the green thread, and the machine is going to do the buttonhole stitch along the grass, the two pieces of the hat, the green pieces, and then it's going to do the triple stitch, the straight stitch for the kite string, and then the stitching around the hearts that make the shamrock. So simply put your foot down and your machine will begin stitching. And so we'll be right back. This is gonna stitch, and we'll be right back when we change the thread color to the aqua will be the next color. So I will be back in a second to show you how this all stitched out. Okay, so now all of the green has stitched. So you have the buttonhole along the grass, the two pieces of the hat, and then you have that triple stitch for the kite and then around the hearts for the shamrock. So now load your thread with your aqua color and hold your string, your thread, not your string. Put your foot down and begin stitching. So what's gonna stitch now is really quick. It is just the aqua buttonhole stitch that goes around the left wing, the bottom of the body, and then the right wing. So we'll be back in just a second with the next color, which is the gold. Okay, can you believe that you're almost done with your bag? This is awesome, huh? So the aqua just finished stitching the buttonhole for his body and his wings. So load your orange thread. It's kind of a golden orange. It looks really bright, but it stitches the right color. So simply put your foot down and begin stitching. So what's gonna stitch now is around the buckle of the little hat, and then it's gonna do his nose. And then it's gonna come down here and do a triple stitch, the straight stitch, for his little legs, his little bird legs. And then we are going to do, the next colors that will happen are brown, and then we will have pink, yellow, purple, and then the final step will be where I show you the difference in how you can finish the two off between having the binding or completing it completely in the hoop without the binding. So I'll just keep the camera rolling while we're doing this because these little stitches are so fast, there's no point in making you pause and stop and come back. So See, because he's almost done with the little gold. He just has to do the little legs. And these next color changes are all really quick. And you'll want to keep in mind when you get to the pink, yellow, and purple, if for some reason you put your pink, yellow, and purple in a different order other than what's shown on our sample and in the pattern, then make sure that you put the right thread color at the right time, because you won't want, you know, a weird color thread stitched on that. Or you could do like a fun accent color. Actually, white would be maybe cute to have white on all three of them if you wanted to. But if you want it to look just like this sample, pay special attention to those three thread colors and make sure you have those in the right order. I just love the little chicken legs. They're so cute. Okay, and now we're gonna load the brown. And what the brown is going to go on is just a buttonhole stitch around the left and the right side of the stripe on the hat, or the little hat band. So we'll just get this loaded up real fast. And you can always fast forward this video if you know what you're doing for these next few steps. Go on and fast forward me. But again, I like to give as much detail as possible, so that if this is the first time or maybe even second or third time you're making a bag and you need, you know, a little more guidance, that's what I'm here for. And I think I mentioned either at the beginning of this video or when I was filming the mug rug tutorial, it must have been the beginning of this one, I forgot some of the steps and how to do this, and I didn't have my instructions out here. So I actually pulled up my own YouTube tutorial on my phone to remind myself before I filmed this. That was kind of funny. So I use the video tutorials myself. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but it's true. I can't remember everything all the time. Okay, so now the brown's done, and then we have the final three decorative stitch changes. And so we'll fly through these. Get your pink on. There we go. Isn't it nice how fast it is to thread these machines now? All right, hold your thread. And I just hold this the whole time. It doesn't get in the way when you're stitching something so quick like this little accent line on the bow. So fast. And then we'll get the yellow on there. And there we go. Get that. That little cap at the end really helps, doesn't it? Holding your thread on. There we go. And let me go on and trim that pink since it's stitched. There we go. Now get my yellow. There we go. And I'm holding a whole bunch of thread. You don't have to hold that much. It just makes it easier in the filming to have it so I'm not blocking your view. And now we're to the last color change that's visible. So now what we're gonna do is put this purple on, and then I'm gonna explain again the differences in finishing. So let me get this threaded, and then I'll start talking about that. Here we go. And there you go. Be careful when you have your hands under there with that stuff moving. Okay, so now the difference in what's gonna happen for the bags. Well, first off, the next step after this, before you do anything, we're gonna take it off the hoop and we're gonna sew our 2 buttons in for the eyes and then 1 button here. Now, let me admit, I forgot to do that when I was making my test, but I didn't forget on this one. So do this. This is actually one Mom made by hand, her original design. So sew your 2 buttons on in this. So let me give you a tip on how you're gonna sew your buttons on. So what I like to do, have your little bag of buttons that came in your kit, and then I use a tulip needle that I use for my hand embroidery. And I just gently lay this on the side of the table and I'll stitch my buttons on. And then what we're gonna do is leave this in the hoop. And to complete this in the hoop, you're also in this step. So sew your buttons on and then trim this piece down. So you're gonna trim it down. Let me get closer. You're gonna trim just along the outside of this bag. You want it to be just right because you wanna make sure that you line it up perfect. So give yourself maybe like an 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch outside of it and trim just along there. So I'll be back in just a second to show you the buttons and this trimmed. Okay, so now you should have your button sewn on. So we have the little green button and then 2 little eyeballs. And it's really fun to see him come to life. I kind of like angled my eyeballs a little bit on this one. So he's kind of like quirky. So what you're gonna do now, there's a couple steps here. And this step right here that we're completing right now is the same regardless of if you're making it with or without binding, okay? So remember how this whole time we've had the back taped up? We are going to untape that and we are going to cover the back. Now, if you want to, within this stitched area, you can pull out your fusible. Only within the stitched area, okay? Don't pull out around it because you're gonna mess up your positioning. So simply fold this down. I kind of give it a little finger press just to pull it down. And this way, all the knots from the different colors are totally hidden on the inside of your bag. And it gives it a nice clean look. So I'm gonna tape this in place and I'm gonna do a piece along both sides and the bottom, so I make sure it stays in the right place. And now we're gonna put it back on here, okay? And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go on and put a white thread on. Technically, what we're about to stitch is never gonna be visible, but I'm just gonna go on and change it to white. So take this off, and you'll see on your screen, it looks like it's just gonna stitch a little square. Well, I guess it's more of a rectangle. Whoop. Well, if I can get my thread on, y'all. There we go. Okay, so now, again, you've been really careful when you've sewn on your buttons not to distort the positioning of anything in the hoop, right? So that's why I like to lay it on the edge of a table or like keep it right here in front of me. So I'm going to hold my thread, and what's gonna happen now, you put your foot down, and this is gonna stitch a rectangle, and that is gonna be properly securing off the inside with this. Then we're gonna get to where the steps change. Let me get that out of the way. See if I can get close. There we go. So now's where the steps change. So let me just review. The back that we made in the hoop, right? This is quilted. I gave myself about a 1/4 inch all the way around of the outside square. So that is trimmed, okay? So if you are completing this in the hoop, what we're gonna do on the next step is open the zipper and then place this on top face down. And then because the zipper's open, we'll be able to take it out of the hoop after this is stitched, and we'll be able to turn our bag and we'll have this, but you'll have your buttons on because you will not have forgotten your buttons like I did. Or if you wanna finish it off with binding, what you're gonna do is after this is now stitched, you would unhoop this, trim it a 1/4 inch along as well, and then you would put them wrong sides together, right? So you'll be able to see the front and the back of your bag, right? You'd see the bird and you'd see this label, and you would simply do a 1/4 inch seam there, and then you would complete your binding just like you would any other project. Again, with this, no matter what, make sure you open your zipper, because if you stitch without opening that zipper, no matter which way you do it, you're not gonna be able to have a zipper pull, or you're not gonna be able to turn it. So right now, I'm just gonna reach over here. I'm sorry to be like right in front of the whole camera. And I unzip it about 3/4. There we go. And then we're gonna keep the white thread. So again, I'm finishing this in the hoop because I personally don't like to do binding. I give all things binding to Mom, and she's sweet enough to do it for me. So what that did was properly secure this, right? So it looks really nice on the inside of your bag. So what we're gonna do, because this is gonna be turned, let me come over a little bit. So this is in the hoop. You are unzipped about 3/4 of the way, right? And you're gonna place this face down. You are going to line up the outside stitched lines together because you wanna make sure this is straight. And so, you just make sure I'm in place. Am I looking good down here? and just check all 4 sides. See, I think I need to come to the left a little. Let's check. Oh, just a hair. Okay, and you don't need to take this necessarily. I'm going to just a few pieces just to kind of hold it flat. And what this is gonna do, because we're finishing it in the hoop, it's gonna do a zigzag stitch on all 4 sides, right? And that's gonna complete our bag in the hoop. So again, we have right sides facing each other. So you have the top of the bag is in the hoop, and then the back of your bag is face down. So just simply put your foot down and let it stitch. So again, this is completing it in the hoop, and you have right sides together. Also pay special attention. Ooh, a piece of tape came off under there. Pay special attention to make sure that your label is facing the direction you want. So in the hoop, the top of the bag is situated this way. So I want to make sure my label is down here so that the back of the bag, right, is the right way. Okay? So when this is done stitching, we'll just simply take it out of the hoop and flip it right side out, and we'll have a completed bag. Again, if you are completing this on the sewing machine, you would not do this very final step. This last step that's in black, you would not do that. You would simply go to your sewing machine and put the bag where it's gonna look like a bag, and then you would stitch. And then you would complete your binding just like you would any other binding. And on the membership page, I do have all the videos that show how to do binding linked. Mom does really nice binding without any special tools. So see, you end up with a really nice like bias seam, and all the corners are perfectly mitered. And we are gonna film another video to show you how to use, when you're done with your binding, you'll have a scrap, right? So that's what we use to make the little zipper pull. So cute, huh? So we'll do a quick video to show you how to make that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed these tutorials. I hope they're helpful. If you have any questions at all in the construction of the bag, just email orders@stitchesoflovequilting.com and we'll answer as fast as we can. And happy stitching. Thanks for being a member of the Mug Rug Club.